Hello and welcome back to Module 3 of our class. We're going to jump right in. This is a big week for us. There are two main topics and two main assignments for this week. The first one is sentence diagramming. Now, I know. It's been a long time since you've done grammar or sentences or parts of speech. I understand. Yet we are going to dive in, and I just suggest that you take it one word at a time and use the resources that we have in the class. Don't get caught up either on the technology of it. I'll show you how to do it in a simple way, but if for you it is easier to just write it on a piece of paper and draw your lines and how things connect, and then say take a picture of it with your phone and then insert that into your assignment, that is fine. I don't want you to get caught up in the technology. I want you to think about the ideas, which is looking at the grammar carefully and understanding how the words work together. Now I'm going to give you an example, a few examples about how to do this. First off, you should, as a little refresher, be able to identify the subject. There's three main parts of every sentence. It's a subject, a verb, and then the object, a direct and indirect object. So what you see here, a subject would be like a person, so who's doing the action. So he is the subject. The verb would be hit. And then the actual direct object is the ball, and the indirect object would be into the room. The indirect object technically be room. So what you have here on the top line are three parts of speech: he, hit, ball, room. And it gets more complicated from there, but if you can try to find the three basic parts of speech and put them on a straight line, and then the words which modify those three basic parts, then you're on the right track. For example, look at here. This is a familiar verse, John 3:16. For, and this is a transition word, so it's in there up above it on its own. The subject is God, the object is the world, and the verb is loved. And then these words so modify the words loved, and the word the modifies the world, so that it reads for God so loved the world. Notice three basic parts: subject, verb, and an object. That's really all that's on this first line, and then the words which modify go underneath. Then there is a connecting transition here, like that, so that, he, so then it's a new line, because now there's a new subject, verb, and object. Note that is he gave son. So the subject is he, the verb is gave, and the object is son. And not only plain old son, but his only begotten son, which then modifies that. So hopefully you can see that there's three basic parts and they should all go on a line. Now when you create your assignment, I want to show you, I've already preloaded the words here, but if you just need a tip about how to create this in Microsoft Word, here's how you do it. If I'd separate out my three words: God, loved, world, subject, verb, object. Then all I would do is go like that, and I like to use the underline feature right there, so that kind of creates a straight line that you'll find in diagrams. Then to create a vertical character, at least on my keyboard, there's a straight line that is right above the enter key, and when I put that there, it looks like this, so that now I have a straight line there. Then to connect the word that, I'm going to add another straight line. It's as if this adds a straight line above it and right there, so that these are all connected. Then right here I'm going to create another straight line, because this is a complete subject, verb, and object. And then I'm going to create a character there. I believe it's called a caret technically, and right there. So that then I have just created a diagram. Not just putting the words out there, but I've created lines within Microsoft Word. So that's one way that you could create the sentence diagrams. And I think that there are some examples of that in the example for exegesis document that you can find in the add-ons. There's a little introduction to how to do the diagramming. Now, the second assignment and the second part of Module 3 is a word study. Now, let me give you a couple overall tips about how to do that assignment and how to do a word study, and then I'm going to show you a website that will help you to do that further. In a moment, I just put it on here so that you can see it typed out. I'm going to use blueletterbible.net. You can use any resource. I use a program on my computer called Logos. There's a lot of resources, but if you don't know where to go, Blue Letter Bible is a great place to start. Now, when you do a word study, I would suggest that you don't pick a million words. in the passage that we have, I'd suggest that you only pick 3 to 5 words, and to give a thorough analysis of the words. Some students will just fly through and really just say, this is the word and here's what it is in Greek, and then they just keep repeating that for like 20 words. It doesn't tell me anything. I know what the words are in Greek. What I want you to do is find 3 to 5 keywords. How do you do that? I would find key words that are repeated. Often some of the keywords will be verbs, key verbs, and important nouns. It could be a whole bunch of different things, but I would look there first. But let me tell you, it's not the words like I or you or then. Those might be important for the grammar, maybe even the logic of the verse. Those, when you look into those in the Greek, they're not going to yield important findings that are usually going to be important and critical to the interpretation of the passage, at least from a word study perspective. At least not typically. What you're going to do is then, after you've chose 3 to 5 words in the English, then find the underlying Greek word. And let me be clear about this. James wrote in Greek. So when you look back to find the word that James was using, it's going to be in Greek. So many students end up telling me a Hebrew word for what James was writing in, and I just am beside myself because he didn't write in Hebrew. So they're inventing words that James was not using. Now, when you get much further, there might be reasons to try to understand what the equivalent Hebrew word is, but that's way beyond the scope of this class, and not really all that important for what we're doing. So find the Greek word, and then the second thing is find the range of meaning, which is basically all the possible English definitions of that word, a list of possibilities. Then look at the original context. So go back to the original context and say, how would this read? I have 5 different options. How would this word read in that context? Does this make sense? Does it make sense for this sentence? What about a little bit before, a little bit after? There's a lot of things actually you can do with word studies, but just as a basic process, this would be the first, for your first word study, this is what I would do. Then go back, and this is another part that students often miss, is pull it all together. Why did we do this word study? Didn't just pick a word, find the Greek, identify the range of meaning, but then after you've found what you think is a good word to choose and why you know it was chosen, what does this do to your interpretation? And then explain that. So you'll have plenty of words for each word study there, where you'll only be able to do 3 to 5 to fill up your word count. Now, like I said, I want to show you a place where you can, on Blue Letter Bible, so that you can do this yourself. Here's Blue Letter Bible right up here, and you'll find a web page like this. They update it from time to time, but let's just go ahead and look at John 3:16. Now, one thing that's important is don't pick. You have to be a little careful about which versions you pick. I don't have time to go into it about how translations are made, but you want to pick a version which is a close word-for-word translation that is morphologically linked, often to Strong's numbers. To just keep it simple, it's going to be either the NASB, the ESV, or the New King James Version, or even the King James Version, though I would avoid that unless you really, really want to do that. I'm going to pick the New American Standard Bible, and I'm going to look that up here. Now, what the Blue Letter Bible is going to do is it's going to show you each verse here, and I'm going to go and click on this. When I do that, for God so loved the world, it's going to pull up a bunch of resources here. It has it written in Greek here, and then for every word that we have in the NASB, it's going to give the equivalent Greek word right here. Now, this is where I would look. Then I would look on the Strong's number. So let's say that we wanted to look at the word love. So for God so loved the world. Well, there's agapeo, familiar, agape, love, and we could click on here for G25. That is how it's linked to Strong's, which is a tested and established resource. It's been around for a long time. So when you go to this particular word, which is Strong's G25, you have all kinds of information here. It's used in a bunch of different ways. You can have love of persons. You can have love of things. Here's Thayer's Greek Lexicon. You can find out more information about that. Down here you can see where the word is used. At least it'll go on and on because love is obviously used a lot. You can see all the instances of that specific word in Greek, not in English, but in Greek. Maybe you're familiar, but there's different words for love, like phileo and others, eros, others. So you might be able to find how that specific word, agape, is used. You can even listen to it being pronounced if you wanted to right there. Anyway, you can find up different resources. There's all kinds of basically lexicons, which are definitions and dictionaries for Greek words. Now, you would need to cite this and say that this is Strong's G25, and I found this on Blue Letter Bible. But certainly Strong's is a scholastic resource. That it's not the most modern one, but it is definitely a strong one to be used for this class. So you could use this to find any word that you like, and if it was an Old Testament passage, which we're not doing for this assignment, you can also find a Hebrew. So all that to say, find those words, identify the Greek, footnote it, where it came from, identify the range of meaning, then explain how it fits into the original verse context, and then what does this have to do? How does it impact your translation, or I'm sorry, your interpretation of that verse? Hope that helps for this week. Have a good one.